Toss it over to Celeste. Are you ready for this one? I've got a $1,500 donation from Shy Guy 32. They say, always a fan of TASBot and the amazing task community. Donating to see the Celeste task, and if it's anything like last year's Celeste task, then we're in for an absolute treat. And I've been told we need a few more moments. Sorry, I lied. James 16 gave us $50 and says, don't stop. We've almost topped 2015's record, and it's still Friday. All right, are you ready? Give me a big round of applause, because we're about to toss it over to Celeste.
Hi again, I'm dwangoAC. I am keeper of TASBot, and TASBot's actually going to be showing us what is being pressed in Celeste, thanks to a lot of work by Euni, who is the main tasser here. I'm going to throw it over pretty quick, but before I do, I want to tell you guys thank you so much. $175,000. Thank you. Just like before, I am going to be handing off because Euni and the rest of the team here has done how many thousand? 20,000 hours on this? Some ridiculous?
No.
2,000?
Definitely well over 2,000.
Yeah, well over.
Okay, maybe I added a couple zeros there for effect, but you get the idea. It has been a lot of work, many re-records, a lot of effort and love went into this, and you're going to experience that. I'm going to pass my headset and my microphone over to Kevin, who is part of making this happen. And that is so awesome that he's here with Power Up Audio. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand this over to Euni, and I'll let her describe what's going on here.
So I'm Euni. Everyone else want to introduce themselves?
I'm fischmcmuffins. I was one of the... Thank you. I was one of the testers for this game. I run a variety of other games, and I'm here to commentate.
I'm Buhbai. I'm a RTA runner, and I have touched the ARB test a little bit, not too much.
I'm TGH. Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
I'm TGH. I run pretty much every category in Celeste as an RTA runner.
You know who he is.
I know nothing about tassing, but here I am.
Sometimes indistinguishable. I'm Kevin, as Dwango said. I'm here with Power Up Audio, but I was the head sound designer on this game alongside Lena Rain on music, who killed it. So I don't tass at all. I don't tass at all, but I try to inject myself into the speedrunning scene wherever I can, and I'm just stoked to see this happen, so thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
All right, so I think we're going to start by going over some of the ways to actually get around in this game fast. All right, so first off, you have your normal dash cancel, which is basically pressing dash and jump at the same time. Simple stuff. You have your hyper dash, which is the same thing basically, except you're crouching. So it'll give you a little bit of a lower jump, lower, faster, longer, covers more distance jump. You can also do something called extending that hyper dash. So if you actually separate your dash and your jump input by somewhere between 10 and 15 frames, so there's a 5-frame window, you have your dash back in midair, just like Euni's doing. In addition to that, you can do something called ultra dashing. So it's a continuation of an extended hyper dash where you dash downward diagonally in the direction you're going. And what that does is it actually chains the momentum and makes it so that it doesn't stop as soon as the dash ends like it would in any other direction. And I think that's it. Should we have a wall bouncing or up hypers?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can dash upward alongside a wall and press jump off the wall, and it'll give you an extended height and distance.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What am I missing?
Think that's all.
I think that's about it, yeah.
All right, awesome. So
All intended.
you're gonna see all that done like 10 times in 3 seconds, and what's to come here. You guys are gonna enjoy this.
Okay, so how about we get a countdown from 5? 5, 4,
3, 2, 1.
What?
Oh.
What?
1 second.
No, it wasn't supposed to start. We did test this.
Is it not going to like the name? menu?
Yeah.
Not going to name.
TASBot seems to have strange methods here.
No idea.
That's all right.
All right, while our TASBot team is diagnosing things real quick, I have $100 from Tyler. And they donated saying, Tyler here, this is me doing my part, Nick. Let's go, let's get that glitch exhibition for Dark Souls. Thank you very much, Tyler. I also have $25 from probably that Tyler he mentioned. Okay, fine, my name is Tyler, that might have been me. Well played, Anonymous. Get those Dark Souls glitches going. There's another one. I have $5 from not the reference Tyler, who says, definitely not the Tyler mentioned earlier, but I feel attacked. And I have one more before you get full on to the Tyler chance. We have $15 from Conduit, AKA Tyler, says, my name is Tyler, and I am playing my part. All right, All right, we have $150 from Modafinal, who says, yay MSF, yay GDQ. And with that, I think we're going back to Celeste. So yay TASBot, let's get some hype going.
So I would love to say that that's never happened before, but that's happened a lot. Okay, 5, 4,
3, 2, 1.
All right, so now that TASBot is now that TASBot's done manipulating the RNG, we can get started.
The first thing you're going to see here is that we're jumping a lot off the ground and off the top of walls. Those are called bunny hops and corner boosts, respectively. And those both give a small speed boost, so you just see we're jumping as much as possible. Each jump here saves 2 frames.
You can do this, TASBot.
So, figure we might as well start by how these berries work. You have to be on the ground for 9 consecutive frames to collect a berry. And this leads to some interesting routing. So in around 40 seconds, we have to take an intentional death. And that means we have to put a lot of work into routing, okay, where is exactly the fastest place to collect a berry? However, after that intentional death, at the end of a chapter, berries automatically collect, so we don't actually have to worry about collecting berries anymore, and we end up with a pretty big train of berries behind us.
Worth mentioning in a second here, we're actually going to take a little detour and grab a heart. Since this is all red berries, there are 5 berries in core that are of interest to us. And to get into core, we need 4 of the crystal hearts. So one of them's coming up here. We're entering a little password to unlock it. And there's our first heart.
And the death work there was to skip the cutscene where the heart spawned.
It's worth noting as well, an RTA run would actually save and quit after getting that heart. However, this task has been modified to be RTA compliant. So yeah, we actually don't care about real time really on the leaderboards for human runs, but everything's IGT. But this task has been modified for RTA for GDQ specifically.
All right, so coming up in a second, you're going to see a really interesting strat.
So those were demo dashes. Don't worry, we'll explain how those work in a few chapters, but just remember that for now.
Not intended.
You sure?
I'm sure on that one. Yeah, that was not known.
Okay. I thought everything was intended.
The discoveries are intended.
So you'll notice that berry over there was a wing berry. That just means that anytime we dash when there's a wing berry on screen, it'll fly away. So there's a little bit of tricky routing with that involved. Like we have to be entering the screen with a lot of speed. Oh yeah, and that's a thing.
Yeah, so humans go over there and Tash just goes under. This is Tash. How much faster even is that?
A fair bit.
A fair bit.
About half a second in real time.
Gotcha.
So Old Site is different from every other level in that there's a cutscene at the end of a level that you actually can't take berries through. I believe that's going to
We're
be
fixed. It's already fixed. It's fixed yesterday.
I'm glad.
Thank you, Kevin.
You can thank Noel for that one. I didn't do anything.
Actually, I should explain cutscene skip coming up here. When you skip a cutscene, your Y position stays the same, so you just appear in the dream block.
Yeah, it saves a little bit of time climbing.
So what I was saying about berries is that at the end of a level, there's a cutscene that takes the berries away, so we have to find places throughout the level to collect all the berries. There are 11 berries that we have to worry about collecting, and we're able to actually collect all 11 berries while only losing 7 frames.
Which is very impressive.
Yeah. So, some interesting hitboxes coming up here. That shouldn't work. I don't know why that works. It shouldn't work.
Yeah, our hitbox goes right through battle line. It's interesting. It's a thing.
Guess we should start explaining ultras, delayed ultras now. So, you saw ultras when we were setting up, and when you do an ultra, you get a 1.2 times speed boost when you hit the ground. A delayed ultra is rather similar. You dash down diagonally, but then you corner boost out of a dash. And when you land from that corner boost, you'll still get a 1.2 times speed boost. Now, this all goes really fast, and it's really hard to see it, but we can use this to gain a lot of speed on relatively flat ground, and you'll see that become relevant very quickly.
We did explain what corner boosts are, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, just making sure. Yeah, so that's the cutscene right there that Euni was talking about where you can't actually take berries through.
All right, and watch this.
Yeah, this is insane.
Unfortunately, on the way there, we have to take a little detour and get this berry, but with a cheeky little spike jump, we can get it nice and quick.
Yeah, and that's the only place in the game where we can chain 5 ultra dashes.
Yeah.
There's an interesting strat at the beginning of the resort here. I think it's about 1/10 of a second faster to do this incredibly precise dash up to this platform.
So we were talking about delayed ultras earlier, and if you missed it, you're going to see a few more right here to carry an absurd amount of speed through these next couple of rooms.
Watch the next screen very closely. So we mentioned that earlier, that's a demo dash. Celeste doesn't actually check what direction you're dashing in until the 5th frame of your dash. However, if you press down on the 1st frame of your dash, you'll be ducking during the dash. And if you aren't pressing down during the 5th frame, you can dash in any direction with a crouching hitbox. And it's a nice coincidence, the distance between those dust bunnies is exactly the same height as Madeline's crouching hitbox. So we can just dash through them.
You might have noticed there a little, another application of the demo dash is if you demo dash and then, so if you demo dash from, this is kind of hard to explain. You demo dash underneath a wall, and by the time your dash is over, the hitbox is not crouched anymore. So you can actually wall kick off the other side.
Yeah, basically Madeline uncrouches into air and her back is touching the wall and she can do a wall jump. Also, that's the thing right there.
Yeah, worth noting, demos are humanly possible. They're not very humanly practical. There are a few that humans go for.
Yeah,
but
usually if a human goes for it, it has a setup of some sort. And when working on this task, we would find a demo that would save a lot of time, and it would be like, well, can humans find a setup for this? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no.
So this is the first major root difference between TAS and RTA. So there are 3 paths in Huge Mess that you can do in any order. So the any percent does bottom, then top, then middle. But shoutouts to Problem Stroll for finding a trick coming up very shortly that allows us to warp from the middle section to the top section and skip talking Oshiro to once. It saves around 8 seconds per the task.
Yeah, so what's actually happening here is on this screen right here. Okay, so we're gonna leave the screen to the left after getting the heart, and the game doesn't really expect you to kick back up. So what it does is it just, because there's no designated spawn point for that entrance to the screen, it spawns you at the nearest spawn point, which happens to be upward. And you can actually skip talking to Oshiro, going back to the main Huge Mess room and talking to Oshiro once.
So TAS does middle, top, bottom. Humans do bottom, top, middle. That's 3 seconds slower for the TAS. It hasn't been properly timed RTA, but it's just really awkward.
Mm-hmm. Mainly the screen coming up here. There's not really any platforms to land on. This one. And this one.
Yeah, Huge Mess running was one thing that took quite a bit. There's just a lot of paths we can take, so we had to time. There's a few that we could just kick out immediately, but we had to time a lot of them.
Yeah, there's some clever routing right there where we pick up a key, put it in the door, and then leave to get a berry.
Yeah, that's the main reason why this route saves time, because we don't have to wait for the door to open.
This berry has given me adrenaline rushes because I thought the task was going to die before.
I really love how the task gets the berry and still finds a way to demo dash twice.
Oh no, we missed the berry.
Oh no, TASBot, go back. Oh, I think he figured it out.
So it's about 3 seconds faster for the task to skip getting the key and just dash through these dust bunnies instead. That saves a lot of time in any percent.
Around 12 seconds.
Yeah, it's up to the runner whether they go for it in or red berries.
I haven't seen a lot of these demo dashes. This is so sick.
Yeah, in TAS, there is pretty much no limit to what demo dash we can do. Where in real time, you got to be real picky. It either has to have a setup or has to save a bunch of time.
This next room is definitely something.
So sick.
So, how close is that to missing the dash crystal in that last screen?
Probably around a tenth of a pixel.
A tenth of a pixel.
And that's all red berries will go in 5 minutes.
All right, right here, this is my favorite level. I think almost everyone here's favorite level in the TAS.
It's up there.
Everyone else hates wind, though. Only TAS players like wind.
Yeah, wind is interesting. Wind is interesting because if it's against you, you move a lot faster when you're dashing against the wind, and you actually move slower when you're dashing with the wind. We're coming up to actually, I'll wait a sec.
Very important strategy coming up.
Archie! So the next berry is a seeded berry. We have to collect all the seeds to get the berry to collect, and we're not supposed to touch the ground here. You're supposed to lose the seeded berries if you touch the ground. But if you land on the ground and then fall off of it, the game's generous and allows you to keep the berries, and the TAS abuses that.
A theme with TASing this game is whenever the developers were being generous with like letting you be a little bit off with like an input or something, we can push that to the limits.
Watch
do
this
some
berry.
crazy movement. Yeah, we don't need those moving platforms.
This next berry is my favorite in the game.
Really cool.
And then you'll see in the next room there's a white block. That's a reference to SMB3. You're supposed to hold down on the block for a few seconds, and you're suddenly moving around the background of the stage. We do that.
Yo, I tried that for so long during development. I couldn't do it.
You should have tried harder.
There's a cool auto-scroller skip in the next screen, and there's a jump at the end of it that you might want to pay attention to. Right there, we jumped off the bottom of a wall. That's possible because the game sometimes just doesn't move you up far enough when you grab a wall, and you can just jump off a wall even though it's not there. Also, there's some kind of interesting movement at the end of the next screen. So that looked a little weird. That was us doing a delayed ultra to gain a little bit of more speed entering the next screen. Because of the time it takes to set up, it's usually not worth it, but it does save time there.
Nice little death warp here.
All right, coming up in this next screen, there's an auto-scroller here. We don't like auto-scrollers.
Shoutouts to Kilaye for finding that one.
The TAS has its own auto-scroller.
So the next berry, there are a couple moving platforms. We interact with these in an unconventional way. So yes, those were 2 spike jumps. I would explain them, except we're about to get a 3rd spike jump on this next screen.
Yeah, watch this.
Cliff face is definitely one of the better parts of this task.
Yeah, this took forever to find a good route for. And one more spike jump off of the wall right
Spike
here.
jump! Yeah! So good! Best jump in the game.
So how much time does that save?
Like 0.1.
Nothing.
Not even.
Yeah.
Probably not even that, a couple frames.
We made sure that jump was in the ad for Celeste this marathon.
So how those spike jumps worked is either if the wind pushes you into spikes or a moving platform pushes spikes into you, the spikes don't actually kill you, and you can just jump off of stuff. The start of Mirror Temple here is definitely one of the more frustrating parts to task. There were probably 20 separate routes tested in this section alone. I'm not joking.
Yeah, and in general, Mirror Temple, while one of the best levels in a task, it is very painful. There's so many routes for every section.
Probably my favorite level too.
Oh, speaking of spike jumps. Yeah, that one's a little different because it has these spinner spikes instead of normal spikes, and those actually give you your dash back when you jump off of them.
All right, so coming up here is an interesting segment. A human would go to the left and get those berries first, then come back, get this one later. There's a very specific reason that the task gets that berry first. So we're gonna use a block. Yeah, so we're gonna use this block right here to come back and do this.
I tried to make that one RTA viable, it didn't work.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
This next berry coming up is definitely a fan favorite.
Yeah, that was another one of those little wall jumps that happened underneath a wall.
Yeah, we call them ceiling pops. I like the name, not sure who came up with it, but...
All right, so coming up, actually, the task is going to go a different route here than from what humans do. It saves, what, like 0.3 seconds or something?
Less than that.
Less than that.
Around 3 frames.
Something like that.
Yeah, so we get the berries in a specific order here in order to take this moving platform over here on the left at the end of the segment to gain huge momentum and basically pretty much skip the entirety of the platforming in the next room. And I want you guys to say this with me. Ready? Yay! Yay!
Yeah.
Depth's corner boost.
It doesn't have the same ring to it. Never seated berry in this room. Again, we're not supposed to touch the ground here, but we do an extended hyper here anyway. And we have 4 berries behind us. Next berry, we're going to do a death warp after.
We have a little bit of time to wait for that platform right there, so let's collect the berries then.
I think now, if there are any, would be a good time for donations.
Yeah, a bit of relatively tame movement here.
All right, I have $35 from Dave Stereo, who's behind the stage right now. Says, greetings from Camera Tech. Had to show some love during the Celeste task. Celeste is such a special game, and I'm so proud of everything this community has accomplished. Thank you for being some of the coolest friends ever, and let's keep celebrating this amazing game. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
We're proud of you, Dave.
Also, I've got a bit of fun one. $250 from Listy that says, go TASBot, go TASBot, go, go. Go TASBot, go TASBot, go TASBot, go, go. Thank you very much, Listy.
It's going.
You can fit another one in.
All right, and of course, this one's referring to Dark Souls Glitch Exhibition that we got coming up. We're at a pretty good amount, 18,000 out of the 60,000, and it's from John M194. They donated $250 and said, just say, praise the sun.
So coming up here, we have the first appearance of Seekers. Seekers move around somewhat erratically and like to dash at Madeline. And we have to manipulate one to get this berry here. There's one other Seeker we have to manipulate later in the level, and manipulating those Seekers to move quickly was probably the most painful part of this task.
Really nice corner boost.
I love this screen.
All right, coming up here is another section called Search. This section is also a nightmare to task because of a cycle we're not really going to talk about, but there's a lot of moving parts here.
It's just about impossible to save a single frame on this checkpoint because of a lot of miscellaneous stuff regarding how keys rotate.
That demo dash is done by humans, actually.
And it actually messes up the camera, a funny little side effect of it.
That setup was found by Nero. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Nero. They found a ton of really good setups that are actually possible. And coming up this next berry, that is 5 frames slower.
But we have to wait for the cycle anyway, so might as well show off a little bit.
Yeah, so the cycle they're talking about is actually in a couple screens from now. It's in this screen right here. So yeah, because of the way keys work, because of the way it's facing, it can actually take longer. And yeah, it makes that possible.
Yeah, if
right
we
there.
were to go 1 frame faster in the entirety of Search, the Seeker in that room would dash into us. And we're coming up to Theo, one of the best parts of the task. Theo cancels a dash, which means if you dash downward into Theo, you can use him to interrupt your dash and get the speed boost from the Ultra. And yeah, just watch.
Yeah, the last time this Celeste task was shown at a GDQ, this section was a fan favorite. You can probably see why.
Now you're just showing off. You're correct.
So check this out right here. So
those demos save 2 frames.
And it's time to deliver Theo into an eyeball.
So I guess you might be wondering how that spike clip worked. So basically, the long story short, 1 frame, you're on the left of the spikes. The next frame, you're on the right side of the spikes. It's that simple.
So, in about... Oh, wait. So this feather, we took some kind of weird movement out of that feather. It actually is faster to hold diagonal on either D-pad or the keyboard on the first frame of feather movement. It just gives you a bigger speed boost.
I love this next screen right here. Check this out.
What? So normally we call those Kevins, but I think they're covert muffins now.
Covert blocks, let's go.
Covert blocks. And watch this very carefully. That's great. Can't believe you did that.
You're welcome.
All right. So here, actually, we're going to play the B-side of Reflection. That's because this level at the end of it has a heart and is actually a little bit faster to play than 6A. And
This is great.
It took me a second to realize what was going on.
Yeah, very few people knew we were doing that. It was on a need-to-know basis.
So what Fish was saying is that, watch this. So that wasn't a demo dash. We literally just jumped through spikes on that last screen. And it just so happens that with absurdly precise positioning, you can just crouch jump through spikes occasionally. What Fish was saying is that I can't even try to comment.
This guy's out for your job.
So 6A does not have any berries in it. 6A does not have any berries in it, so we don't have to collect any berries, and that means we can take advantage of an oversight where completing the B side of a chapter actually unlocks the next A side. And it happens that 6B is faster for the task to complete anyway, and it gets us a crystal heart so we can skip one earlier. And at the end of each screen, we end up going really fast you can jump every frame in the water, and each jump gives you a small speed boost, and we call that a water boost. On the next screen here, we could just demo directly to the end of the screen, but it's actually faster to go a bit out of the way to do a water boost here and preserve speed in the next screen. So we're entering the battle in fight. You just have to hit battle in until she flies off the next screen, and this has some excellent strats here.
A lot of strats,
especially this next screen.
A lot of strats involving falling blocks from the ceiling, as you can see.
I feel like the best way to describe how the task plays this level is just the intended strat is lava. On this next screen, we've been using this throughout the task, but we're able to jump off this Kevin twice and get
Covert.
speed boosts from Covert. We're able to jump off that Covert twice and get 2 speed boosts from it. And that allows us to just jump over pretty much the whole screen. And we've been using that throughout the entire task, getting as many as 4 boosts off of blocks in some places. We got 3 right there.
We had to put one fake one in for you, a little throwback.
So this next screen is the best cycle of the task. This is not RTA viable.
That cycle's pretty cool too.
Get some love for Covert Muffin being a good sport too. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you.
That was great. The very first part of that cycle is technically possible, by which I mean I did it once after trying for an hour and a half. So we have 2 dashes now. There's a cutscene in 6A where you get 2 dashes. We skipped that. Fortunately, you still have 2 dashes. And really, the only thing you need to know about Summit is that there are 47 berries in this chapter.
It's worth talking about the way that Summit is laid out. As we progress up areas of the Summit, we get remixes of areas we've previously seen. So like right here, we'll have a remix of Forsaken City.
Yeah, unfortunately, at the beginning of each section, you are forced to collect a berry. Also, just great touch. I really like how the music changes slightly for each section. Shoutouts to Lena Rain. She did a great job on this game.
Soundtrack is amazing.
Another really good speed conservation strat on this next screen. Kilaye is really good at finding things like that just allow us to conserve speed in places that we really did not think was possible.
So for these dream blocks that we're dashing through in this section, Whenever we leave a dream block, generally it's fastest to do 2 jumps out of the dream block. One right when we leave it, and then another one right in the air. It's kind of hard to see. You can maybe hear both of the jump sounds happening, but it gives us a pretty significant speed boost out of dream blocks.
TAS do them both really quickly together, so you might not be able to see them as well.
I love this. This next berry, Varut here, I just completely missed this in the first version of this task. Someone in the YouTube comments just suggested that, and it saves 2 seconds.
You can also hype out dream blocks, as you saw there.
Yeah, the game treats it as if you're on the ground the frame you exit the dream block, so that makes that possible. And now we're entering 1500, which it's my favorite part of Summit. There are 1 or 2 demos in this section.
Love how you just kind of like lose sight of Madeline there. Like, where'd she go?
Foreshadowing. This cycle on the next screen is probably the most precise in the entire task. We have 0 frames to spare here. That is even closer than it looks.
Cool route coming up here.
I love this screen. And... Everything good? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me know when I can start it again.
That was unfortunate.
So fortunately, the task tools we use allow us to pause at any point. Very glad that's possible. So let's get started again. So this berry, it's actually 3 frames faster for the task to death orbit. We don't do that because of berries. And this screen just gives a really good vantage point of how many berries we have. $2,000 meters is another really good part. There's another strat, absurd speed conservation strat found by Kilaye. And then this auto-scroller skip is pretty well known in the community. Shoutouts to Buhbai for the end of that screen, one of about 2 seconds of input he has in this task.
Thank you.
So if you watch closely, we jumped 7 times at the end of that screen. We haven't talked about stamina, but if you jump more than 4, you aren't supposed to be able to jump more than 4 times off a wall while grabbing before you run out of stamina. we did it 7. That abuses a mechanic which VDevs confusingly call a wall boost. And a wall boost is you jump off a wall, and if you press away from the wall, the game treats it as if you tried to jump away from the wall and gives you back your stamina. And of course, the task completely abuses that.
Yeah, so coming up is actually a breakable wall on the left that until like actually somewhat recently, we thought you couldn't break that wall without the bubble.
Yeah, the first version of the task, the day after it was released, someone just asked me, hey, why didn't you jump off the wall? And I was like, wait, you can jump off that wall?
To be fair, it's the only breakable wall that was like that, so understandable.
And then we have a couple skips coming up here. This one isn't intended.
Okay, this room.
The other side is intended.
Okay, wait for it. Look at the very bottom 2 tiles, the very bottom of the spikes.
Also, watch the key here.
Okay, that last room, we literally made the key skippable for any percent, and the berry not skippable for 100%. So, thanks.
So, at this point, we've collected, I believe we haven't collected any of the berries.
Valid run, valid run.
I believe we have not collected any berries from the Forsaken City section of Summit. And got another really good vantage point of the berry train coming up here.
Just keeps going.
You expect it to stop, and it just doesn't.
That berry train actually lags some people's computers. It's hilarious.
Yeah. When I was streaming the first version of this task, my game was running at like 15 FPS there. We're entering the downwind section of the task. A nice property of downwind is that if the wind pushes you into spikes, you can jump off of them. So we just did free spike jumps there. And there are 4 more coming up here.
In case you're wondering, by the way, all of this is completely RTA viable.
Hey, so what's the IL record for Summit ARB?
1146, I think.
Yeah,
47, I think.
1147.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
I think this beats it by a little bit.
A little bit. Fair warning, it skips like the next 4. Okay, this one's great.
Yeah, watch this.
What?
By the way, I was kidding about the RTA viable thing.
In case it wasn't obvious. Also, cool thing, it's actually faster to skip the orb here. It also skips collecting a berry, which is obviously more important.
Take that, memers.
Just why have spikes?
Hey, occasionally they're positioned well enough to block us. Okay, Flag 1 is unironically the single hardest part of the game to task. And we did not have to do this, but we knew everybody wanted to see this. It just keeps going.
Crank it.
It's great. Yeah, 9:39. A little bit better.
A little bit.
But we're not quite done yet. We still have to do core and get 5 more berries to finish out the run.
And for anybody wondering, you have to collect 5 berries and complete core. We get that question a lot.
So the main gimmick of core is, so once you get past this point, your dashes don't actually replenish when you touch the ground. You have to either screen transition or you have to collect the green dash crystals in order to get that back.
And there's a pretty major skip coming up here. Saves around 30 seconds. And normally you're supposed to go several screens out of the way to hit a switch that turns this entire area to ice. Instead, we do this.
That saves about 25 seconds.
Yeah, we do a version of that, not that version, but in human runs as well.
Saves about 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Similar to the key and berry thing in the Mirror Temple part of Summit.
There's another really cool skip here. We skip that switch, just skips about 2 seconds of backtracking here. What were you saying?
I was saying the ice list in that section was intended for any percent, but it was not intended for the berry again. So again, thanks for that. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Kilaye mainly worked on the any percent version of his task. A lot of stuff he found is relevant to this, but also found a bunch of stuff in core, specifically that screen. Used to be just horribly slow, but...
Yeah. In general, core is kind of a nightmare to optimize because we have to think of the best location to use all of our dashes.
Yeah, also just movement while Madeline's moving slowly is really hard. We're corner boosting twice at the top of most of these corners. You'll also see we do a little turnaround at the top of a lot of these corners. And I think we saved 7 seconds off this task, not from strat changes, but just from micro optimizations all over the place. It's that hard to optimize. This one's pretty good. So there's a 1 pixel window off the side of lava where you can actually wall jump off the lava. But if you do it at the very top, you can corner boost. And it looks absolutely ridiculous. Also, I really like how before we collected those 2 berries, we had every single berry in core at the same time.
Yep, so to finish out the run, we now, well, not yet because they're not actually collected, but we have every single berry in the game, and now it's just finishing out the core. We have this, like, just left to right gauntlet section, kind of.
Yeah, the last berry doesn't actually collect until we complete the game, which I think is pretty appropriate. And we're coming up to the end of the task here. So a couple people I'd like to thank. Devil Squirrel for making the original any percent tasks and making the tools. 0x0ADE for making the mod we're running the tools on right now. And Demo Jameson for, aside from discovering demo dashing, making some pretty big improvements to the task tools. And time. So, we actually have 1 bonus level for you today. I have had, I think, 4 people ping me on Discord and ask me if we're doing this, so I know people are excited about it. And we're actually going to be doing a Seaside. Seasides are really hard but really short levels. This one is only 4 screens. And before we do this, I'd like to just say, if you want to learn more about what we do or you want to get into the speedrunning this game, we have a Discord. You can find it by going to Celeste on speedrun.com. We have a channel specifically for tasking, and there are a couple pinned messages in that channel that describe most of what you have seen today.
Yeah, NTAS Videos also has in the resources section, has a little page on some of the tech we use in this run.
Yeah, and this level, the insanity you're out to see was made possible by dwangoAC and kilaye, so huge shout out to those two. And with out of the way, let's start this.
This is your dessert. You've paid for this. Oh, well, okay.
Okay, now let's go.
Okay.
What?
Haven't input the file.
Oh, yep. That
Oh yeah, change the file. Yeah.
Please hold.
wondering when you were
Technical
gonna do that.
difficulties. So this framework made by Devil Squirrel is what we used last year. There's also a libtask framework made by Keeley. We can use that for other submissions, but this particular one was made by the preferred tools.
Yeah, libtask is really finicky with Celeste. It's a great tool, but this is better. Okay, let's go.
All right, so 8C is actually where hyperdashes are taught to you in-game on that screen right there. If you stopped long enough to see it, the bird would have actually taught you how to
We use the hyperdash on the next screen in a interesting way.
Yeah, watch Madeline
Don't
closely
blink.
here.
Don't blink.
And with that, that concludes our block. Again, before we pass it off, I do want to say thank you to Euni. Thank you so much for everything. You can find more information about TASs at tasvideos.org. You can find more information about console verification at TASBot.net or TAS.bot. You can find us on discord.tas.bot. Highly recommended if you want to be part of our community. We'll see you again at a future GDQ if they let us come back. I hope they do. With that, I conclude this block. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. I do want to cut in before the Celeste people take off their headphones because I have a special donation for you guys. I have $250 from Noel Berry. And he says, thanks so much for all the support for Celeste over the last year and to all the people who put so much work into having it at this amazing event. Also, I like your jacket, Kevin.
Thank you, Noel.
And can we get one more big round of applause for everybody who was involved with TASBot this year?
Thank you so much, guys.
I have one donation here from another Tyler that said, okay, it's $25. It says, I guess all the Tylers have to donate for Dark Souls now. So here we go. And with that, we're going to take a quick break for some Twitch ads. All right, welcome back, everyone. I have a $200 anonymous donation that says, first donation. Let's get that glitchy souls. Praise the sun. Thank you very much for your donation. And as a reminder, we are just short of $20,000 out of the $60,000 needed for that Dark Souls glitch exhibition. You're going to have plenty of time during Dark Souls, but don't let that stop you from donating now. And with that, we are going to take another quick break with some sponsor videos. We'll be right back after this.
You're on couch.
All right, we have $31 from Brad B, who says, let's get that glitch exhibition. Yeah, let's keep those donations rolling in. And before we get going, we do have an interview for you by Kungfufruitcup with Wolhaiksong, MajinPhil, and it's about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Majora's Mask. So let's toss it over to them.
Hey everyone, Kung Fu back here. I am joined by MajinPhil, Wolhaiksong, and it looks like we've got Sent with us too. Sent, you have some prize stuff you want to talk about?
Kung Fu, when do I not have some prize stuff I want
That's
to talk
true.
about?
Okay,
Come
you're
on.
right.
Come on, guys. We have some absolutely amazing prizes at the event this year, thanks to wonderful donors like you. And now is the last chance you have to get into a bunch of super cool Mega Man and Celeste themed prizes. You got to get those donations in before the start of Dark Souls coming up next. And here, I'm going to give you the short of it. $50 donation is going to get you into most of the things we're going to talk about. $150 cumulative from now until the end of the marathon, get you in for an amazing PC. And $200 cumulatively throughout the entire marathon is going to get you into our grand prize, the Hylian Sword and the Master Shield. But let's talk about some of those individual items. Items like these beautiful 8 and 16-bit Mega Man perlers we got here. We got 16-bit Mega Man, we got 8-bit Mega Man. They look great, and the melt on them is so beautiful. They come from Pearl Pop, a good friend of ours. They look great. I love them. I didn't get a chance to show this off earlier, and I really wanted to. We have this beautiful Celeste cross stitch. Madeline has never looked this smug before, and I love it.
Stitch?
That's a cross stitch.
That's really cool.
I know, right? It looks like a painting. You zoom in on that, those are like 6,000 individual stitches. It's incredible. It's a $35 minimum donation, but like I said, $50 is going to get you into pretty much everything that I'm going to talk about right now. Also on your desk, Kung Fu, we have that beautiful Mega Man 11 cross stitch of the Robot Masters. It looks so great. Again, it's another one of those things that from a distance, that's a painting. No, it's not. No, it's not. We also, of course, have the amazing Mega Man 2 quilt. Seriously, that thing is massive. It's an actual like comforter with the Mega Man 2 bosses on it. I love it. It's great. And of course, for $50, you guys can get entered to win some original SGDQ 2019 banners with art by LK. You've seen the banners online on our website. You've seen them on Twitter. You can own the physical copies of them, the only physical copies of them. One-of-a-kind GDQ merch. They're great. We love them. She
does amazing art.
Her artwork is so good, let me tell you. But guys, thanks to your wonderful donations, we've already raised $1.3 million for Doctors Without Borders. That's insane. And
amazing.
We got Celeste task into the marathon. That was a crazy task, was it not, Kung Fu?
I thought it was awesome. It was so fun.
It was so good. Now, Celeste is a game about climbing a mountain, right?
Yes.
It is. And, you know, in a lot of ways, this marathon is kind of like climbing a mountain. You know, we see the problems ahead of us, those goals we got to reach, and we rise to the occasion. And we rose to the occasion on that donation incentive thanks to your wonderful generosity. And we are definitely rising to the occasion for the Dark Souls glitch exhibition, which I believe is about $20,000 out of the $60,000 required. So that's coming up quite quickly, and hopefully we'll have that by the end of the run. But there is always a higher mountain to climb, Kung Fu.
Yes.
Which is why it's my pleasure to announce the final bonus game of Summer Games Done Quick 2019. It will be an Ocarina of Time any % run by world record holder Jorge. How much are you guys gonna have to donate to get that in the marathon, you think, Kung Fu? $100,000? $150,000?
Let's do more.
No. The committee has told me that they believe that everyone is up to the challenge. So our final bonus game, Ocarina of Time any %, will be $300,000.
Wow.
Let me just say, I've seen Torge in the practice room going at it.
He's ready for it.
You want this to
You
Yes.
want this to happen. Ocarina of Time, of course, one of the most iconic speed games ever. Any %, one of the most broken speed categories and one of the categories that's been grinded down the hardest in speed gaming. You want to see this happen. We want to see this happen. And together, we're going to make it happen. Unfortunately, I'm a little worried I might have just said too much. Kung Fu, Uyama, he knows. He's coming. Run.
Wait, me? No, not me. Wait. Okay, bye. Bye, Set. Guess we'll see you later. Hey, do you guys want to talk about some Zelda?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So, hey, everyone. So we have these awesome two runners once again, Phil and Song, and we will be talking about their games coming up, which are both Majora's Mask 100%, and right before that we'll have Breath of the Wild and any % run, which is super exciting. I love Zelda, so I can't wait to watch these. And also Ocarina of Time, because it's definitely gonna happen, right? Definitely.
Make it happen.
Definitely happen.
Make it happen.
So I wanna know what drew you guys into running these games in the first place.
So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
I'll go first. So I actually started speedrunning back in 2013.
Wow.
Long time ago. And I used to be a fighting game player. I used to play a ton of Street Fighter 4, and I never really dabbled into any speedrunning whatsoever. And, eventually I got kind of tired of fighting games, and I wanted something to stream, and I found speedruns. I was actually watching AGDQ 2013 back in the day, back when it wasn't anything like this. You guys were super small at the time, and it's amazing how far it's come. And yeah, I was captivated by all the speedruns, and so eventually, back then I used Speedruns Live to really find different games and stuff. It was a good way to find different speedrunners and whatever on the directory, and I found NOP and ZFG always at the top, doing Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. And the first time I ever did anything speedrun related, I sat in my buddy's basement and I did the Door of Time Skip. It took me like 8 hours to do it on an N64, and when we finally got it, I was like, I don't want to speedrun this, it's awful. And so I ended up going and doing Majora's Mask and trying my hand at that one, and I fell in love with it. I loved the mechanics. Even though they look the same, they're completely different. And so you end up, it's little things that you notice when you actually try it that you fall in love with. And so, I don't know, the thing about me with the speedrunning is that I love it just because it's a game I played as a kid. And this form of playing it gives it infinite replay value. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's a special thing, honestly.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense to me. What about you, Song?
For me personally...
Hello? Okay.
There you go.
There you go. For me, I also watched AGQ 2014, if I'm not mistaken. That's how I got into speedrunning. I loved it ever since. I actually wanted to get into Majora's Mask first.
Atta boy.
But as a first-time speedrunner, Majora's Mask is super intimidating. Once Breath of the Wild came out, I loved the game. I started watching speedruns of it. And since it was a new game, it was, simple enough. People were still figuring out the routes. So I was like, if I don't get into speedrunning now, I'll never get into it. So I just went for it, and here I am. 2 years later, still speedrunning it, loving it. So.
And now you're running for your first time at a GDQ.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This is crazy.
Yeah. So with these games, what would you say is like the hardest part that you found over the years playing these games?
Well, 100% it's not being an idiot for 5 hours.
Okay.
That's, But
Can you elaborate on that for me?
the endurance, like usually, I used to run any % all the time. That runs like about an hour and a half at the time when I used to do it. And this one's 5 hours. So, the mental endurance that you need to run these categories is really difficult. And usually if you ever watch my runs, for 3 hours I'm good. And then the last 2 hours, like I just melt down, like I make mistakes because I just get tired. And so it's that difficulty. But Majora's Mask in particular is a special game. It's very unique because it has an in-game clock that you have to work around. And that in-game clock sets events that you have to meet during certain times. And if you don't make those in-game time events happen, you're not going to be able to accomplish them. And then you have to do an entirely different new set of days in order to accomplish that event. And so we'll talk about it more when we actually do the run. But pretty much, I think it's really difficult because most other games don't have that style of a dynamic where you're running against an in-game clock that has set events. And the way the run is structured is it squeezes all of these things that you have to do before the event. And if you get to it, you can have it happen. And if not, you're late and you're going to lose a lot of time just because you weren't fast enough to complete all the things before it. So that's really difficult, coupled with the length of the run itself.
For sure. Yeah. What about you, Song?
For me, well, since Breath of the Wild is still a new game, there's always new tricks being discovered. So you have to adapt to pretty much anything. Like every day, the glitch hunting community just keeps discovering trick after trick after trick.
Which is great, but...
I mean, it's great, but as a runner, sometimes you struggle a lot with that. And yeah, I mean, it's just adapting. Breath of the Wild actually doesn't have great movement options for setups, I want to say. So there are actually some tricks where there's no setups. I just have to throw myself at it. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I got you. Okay, so do you guys have any special marathon safe strats that you've prepared in case things go wrong?
So there's a couple marathon safe strats, but for the most part, you're going to be seeing a legit run with all the good stuff. And there's a chance that we're just going to take that L if it dies. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's going to be scary. But you know what? At the end of the day, if it happens, we're going to be the guys that, didn't make it at the end, and we're going to take that L. It's fine.
You'll save time.
But we're going to be good. We're good. I promise.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be good.
You're in for a treat.
Wow. Yeah, pretty much the same. I'll let the game do its thing. You either get the trick or you don't.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
That's it. You know what? Okay, some of the tricks are so cool. I'm going to try and make it look good. We got to do the cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Why do it at all if it's not going to look good?
Okay, well, we might have time for some really quick social media questions, okay? Let's grab a few. We have one from Looking for Lou, who says, what was your reaction when the bullet time bounce in Breath of the Wild was found? This is for Song.
It was amazing. I think that bullet time bounces are what basically broke Breath of the Wild. So my reaction to it was just pure excitement. I knew the game was gonna get broken. Since Breath of the Wild is an open world game, the possibilities were endless with that glitch. So for me, it was the single greatest thing in Breath of the Wild speedrunning.
Cool. That's great to know. Okay, we'll fit in one more real quick. This one's for you, Phil, I believe. It says, this is from Silo Simon 1. What's up again, Silo? Says, if you could pick any Majora's Mask glitch to use in real life, what glitch would you pick and why?
First of all, Simon's my boy. He speedruns Mario Party minigame coaster. That dude is crazy. And to answer the question, so this is going to be my fourth marathon run and third GDQ performance, if you include the ones from 2015 and 2016. And so now I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I've been around it for a couple of times, and I'm more, used to how it works and everything like that. But the first time I ever did a run, you should, if you ever have time, go back to the archives, watch the 2015 run that we did, Majora's Mask any percent in I think it was an hour 35 minutes. It's a mess. I literally was saying every 2 words. I was a nervous wreck and freaking out and the jitters and everything. And so, it's definitely not what it used to be. And so I'm more comfortable now. So, that kind of thing, like the mass viewers and everything, doesn't really get to me as much as it used to. But
gotcha.
Before it did, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're ready for this. All right, guys, I cannot wait to see these runs coming up. So excited. And thanks again for talking with me. Really appreciate it. Best of luck to you both. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And next up, guys, we have Dark Souls coming up, ran by Catalyst. So get really hyped for that, and let's make that Ocarina of Time run happen. All right. Can't wait for the next run.
Hype indeed, Kung Fu, because it is I, Covert Muffin, am going to be taking over the hosting station for the next run. Yes. All right, speaking of which, we have a $50 donation from Haloof that says, the whole Sourceborn series has had such an impact on my life since its early days. This $50 is all I got. Put it towards the glitch exhibition. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Thank you so much, Haloof. And speaking of which, we've actually made some progress. We punched out like 2,000 to 3,000 during that interview. So folks, keep those donations coming in if you want to see some epic Dark Souls glitches, because I definitely want to see those. We have $50 from Jay Zin that says, this TAS Celeste run is amazing. And I just had to donate after the Covert Muffin cameos. Let him decide what incentive this goes to. Well, Jay Zin, I'm definitely punching it towards that Dark Souls glitch exhibition. Let's get there, folks. All right, here at Summer Games Done Quick, powered by Twitch, we are so fortunate to be sponsored by FanGamer. All profits from GDQ merchandise sales are donated to Doctors Without Borders. New official merchandise from Deltarune, Dark Souls, Hollow Knight, Stardew Valley, Persona 5, and more. You can check out the swag over at fangamer.com/GDQ. Thank you so much, FanGamer.